Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Monday Creative Kickoff, where we will, in somewhat of a tradition as this new series has become, we're going to take a look at some of the latest or interesting AI technologies out there that are affecting how we work, and also dive a little into Adobe Firefly. If you haven't looked at Adobe Firefly, firefly.adobe.com in a while, lots of cool stuff there, and just kind of explore some of the other things that you may not have seen if you haven't started kind of playing around with it. It's actually just a great way to ideate and kind of come up with cool ideas. And if for nothing else, actually, I sometimes go there just to take a break from things and generate weird stuff. It's fun, which can inspire other ideas throughout your day. So as always, we're coming to you live across Adobe Live, Behance, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, so great, on Twitch, so great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining. See, we've got Voodoo Val here, Z by HP, Sean, Esteban, what's happening, man? Good to see you all. And yeah, back on a Monday in my original face, for those of you who've been paying attention the last few weeks. So yeah, all right, so let's kick into it. And let me just switch my screens over here. So first, let's just bounce over to Firefly real quickly. So it's almost a year, actually, approximately a year ago. I did a stream with my colleague Brooke, and Terry did a subsequent stream upon the launch of Firefly. God, it's hard to believe it's been that long already. And just kind of wanted to just quickly just go through a couple of things here, and then we'll cover some of the recent. These are all in the last couple of weeks. So I'm not going to go over Sora. We talked about that the last time, but a couple of things that have kind of piqued my interest and actually pose some questions for you, how you are planning or thinking about implementing some of the generative AI in your video workflows. As I said, for me personally, I'm generally more interested in sort of the AI assisted processes, a lot of the things that we're currently doing in Premiere and such. But as you're seeing now more and more, particularly with things around, say, voice cloning and lip syncing. Pika just released their lip sync functionality not so long ago. And then you have, of course, all the various flavors of video generation, like the aforementioned Sora, but also image to video continues to be. And in fact, I'm seeing a lot more, I don't know if I'd say interest, but I'm seeing a lot of people experimenting with image to video, maybe in a very experimental way, but in the last few months alone, the results have been really quite something. So this is really kind of a poll to see what are you most interested in, particularly as it pertains to video and AI, generative AI. I know we've talked about this, but it seems to, it's very fluid. It keeps changing. I keep seeing a lot of different trendy things. So we're going to cover some of that stuff. Okay. I need AI for my NAB demos. Well, maybe some of that can be arranged. Okay, so firefly.adobe.com. Again, if you haven't been here before, or if you haven't gone here recently, this is the current homepage. And of course, this is where you can access everything from text to image, generative fill, which, I've covered here on stream. I'm imagining all of you, because you're in the Adobe universe, have played with Gen Fill in Photoshop. There is only one word, which is it is game changing. It completely changes the way you do stuff in Photoshop, and there's no going back. Not that I don't still use content aware fill, which that's the funny thing is I think I talked about this before. I primarily use Gen Fill mostly to just kind of eliminate or remove things, sometimes additive, but mostly for removal. There's also the new remove tool, just because I find that it does, via its newer AI sort of model, it just does a better job of removing everything from blemishes to, lines or whatever it is. I still occasionally go into the classic content aware fill for certain things, and it works great too. So again, all just additional tools in your toolbox. This is where you can also play around with text vector. So if you're not an illustrator, but you want to use a prompt to create vector illustration, in a variety of different sort of formats. Like in Illustrator, we can do icons, subjects, scenes, and patterns. You can play around with it. Text to template, of course, is available in Express, and generative recolor as well, also in Illustrator. This is something which we showcased last year at Adobe Max, And it's won me over in a way that I can't even really describe, just because it is so darn cool, particularly, and in talking with a bunch of illustrators, you know, if you're, in fact, we have a colleague, Michael Fagoso, whom has been on Adobe Live before, and he talks to, you know, he loves to draw, he loves fine lines, he loves doing all the illustration work, but he doesn't, and he'll spend days, weeks, months, whatever. But the coloring process of said illustration is time he'd rather get back doing more illustration. So he leverages generative recolor to not only come up with ideas for color sort of swatches and things, but to really allow him to create presets that he can use on other illustrations of a similar type or style. So super, super cool. Also, just to point out here, so currently right now we're in Firefly Image 2 model. What's cool is we have this, you know, if you look here, so this kind of gives you, and again, if you've used any of the, you know, competitors out there from MJ to Dolly to the rest, you know, this kind of gives you a little nice side-by-side swipe of what, in this case, sort of backdrop character generation would have looked like with Image Model 1, which at the time, and I say at the time, a mere year ago, was cool. And then X months later, we moved to Firefly Image 2, and you kind of see that leap in progression, leap in quality. And I imagine you'll see a similar thing when we make the next leap. So, but again, just kind of some interesting, cool, really well done, beautiful site design. There's also the inspiration gallery here. This is also talking to you about, you know, look some of the things we're dreaming up, and this is some of the stuff that Brooke and I were talking about: 3D to image, sketch to image, you know, custom models, right, to be able to train a learning model on your own content for your own generations. And what I love here in particular is if you go to text to image and you go to the gallery here, not only do we give you, you know, a bunch of people's results, and I think you even see stuff, let's see if it's still on the home page here. I know Chris Castanova, fellow evangelist colleague, had some stuff in here. But you don't only get who did it, but you also get to see the specific prompt that they used. So, you know, I've talked about that a lot on stream here. Prompting is definitely indeed its own form of expression, let's put it that way. But it's really more about how you use adjectives and how descriptive you can be that ultimately really determine sort of the depth and breadth of the different types of generations that you'll get. So it's really cool to see something like this. This is actually a great one here of this sort of bed, you know, photorealistic interior of an Art Deco pink bedroom with dramatic lighting, front face. Okay, I guess they meant front facing. Super cool, Henrik Heigl. You know, this one here, this is, you know, again, a slightly longer, more in-depth prompt. Layers of expansive, mystical digital matrix clouds over technical, mysterious ground, period. Mechanical, otherworld, mixed media, mind-boggling, Victorian, sci-fi, fantasy, habitat, photorealistic, painting edges are blended smoothly. I mean, you know, I actually, you know, on a nerd level, I'm curious to know how much of each of those very specific things is worked. I mean, I imagine they're all seen in the prompt. How much of it ultimately influences whether you know, removed a single word or not. It's just really cool. And again, it's a great way to explore and come up with ideas and really see sort of what Firefly is capable of. This is another great example here. Photorealistic glowing alien firefly made of glow. It's pretty slick. Let's click into that. And then when you go into text to image, so, you know, here's your prompt down below. I'm blocking it here, I realize. So, and I show you that we have, you know, a photo style selected. But this is where you can sort of make all of your changes. So again, you can adjust your aspect ratios here if you've not messed around with this. This starts to get pretty cool. Photo or art, visual intensity. Particularly for art, I like to bring this all the way up. Maybe not as necessary for photos. You've also got style matching, and this is where you can also pull up, you know, specific references. So if you wanted to generate via this same prompt something in, say, a 3D style, something like this. Let's just go ahead and try that and see what happens now. I'm using this little 3D example. This was similar to one that my colleague Kelly showcased last year at Adobe Max when talking about reference image. Yeah, so cool. Now, you know, again, sometimes you get slightly weird stuff. It's kind of weird. Sometimes you get really cool things. You know, is this still a glowing alien Firefly? Maybe. But this is, again, where now we can start to play even more with some of this. So you see all of our various effects here. And I've covered these. There are so many. And, we can go into things like fantasy or, psychedelic or, surrealism. Oh, these are pretty cool. You just got so many themes and everything else. You can also just go to the popular ones and see what all the people are doing. So let's reprompt that. Oh, and then before I do, you've also got your color, lighting, and composition. So I love these. These are, now, of course, you can type these into your prompt. We just try to make it a little bit easier here. And part of this is, as I mentioned, your results are largely dependent on how descriptive you're being. Well, this kind of takes away some of that prompting necessity because it just becomes sort of its own thing that's automatically added stylistically to the prompt. So we could do something like a wide angle or a macro photography always produces really interesting results. Now, it'll be interesting macro with a 3D sort of Pixar-y image reference here. And for lighting, let's do studio light. Actually, let's do golden hour. That'll be interesting with this color scheme. I don't know how that's going to work. And then color and tone, let's just make it vibrant. And let's see, this could be a big stinking mess. But that's the idea around this stuff, is you just get to play around and kind of just, again, come up with different ideas. Wow, pretty cool. Okay, so we can clearly see the golden hour lighting. So it's still embraced that 3D style here and really sort of following the conventions of that reference. But now we have some golden hour lighting. I don't know that I'd say that this is specifically macro, and it might be throwing it off a bit because of the style reference. I'm wondering if we take that out now and just type in 3D. But you get the idea. So, and you can, of course, keep, regenerating based on this. We can take certain elements out of here. Let's take surrealism out and go into just generate again. And then what other advanced settings do we have down here? Oh, then you have the exclusion. This is English only. But if there's specific things that you want to exclude from the output, you can put that in there. And then you often get, I love, this is one of the cool things about Firefly, because it's sort of doing this shallow depth of field, so you have a lot of nice bokeh, but then I like how it sort of shows you, like, this is exactly where the depth of field sort of ends right here. So this is your focal point, and that's why you're getting kind of half of this wing sort of in sharp focus along with this part of the ground. It's just really cool. It's fun to play around, fun to to come up with different ideas. Again, this is getting a little weird here, but this is sort of supposed to be an alien creature, not necessarily a photorealistic creature. That one's pretty cool. There's something very aesthetically pleasing about that. I like that a lot. And then we also have favorites now, which are super cool. And then if you go to the edit menu here, you see you've got generative fill, generate similar. You can use this as a style reference. What does it do? Generate similar. We're going to generate similar ones based on that. Again, this is kind of the playground. This is where you get to really have fun and experiment here and really get an idea of how this works. Oh, look at that. And now we're getting some cute faces. There's a little smiley creature right there. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, Val's just saying, even just for mood boards. I mean, yeah, it's just such a great way to, to just quickly come up with cool ideas. I love the little smile face. Oh, I love that one too. Yeah, I mean, you don't hear me say how cute things are often, but gosh, that is pretty darn cute. Hard to get away from that. I've taken to using Firefly to general location elements to plan out stories. The possibilities really are endless. Yes, totally. And that's the really cool thing. So, and I've done it too. In fact, here, if we clear all this, and let's do Arizona desert landscape at sunset, cacti in the distance. Let's do ultra detailed, not photorealistic, ultra detailed wide angle. And we'll turn on photo here and generate, and we're in widescreen. Let's do that. Right, Val? His little eyes are so cute. I know, it's just fun. Yeah, I mean, come on, look at that. That's awesome. That's great. And curiously, these are all very, very similar. That's interesting too. These first three are almost identical. This one is slightly different, but that's pretty spectacular. That's really nice. Now, again, you know, image model 2, nicely detailed. You know, we zoom in here, get some little weirdness here and there. These are very, very sharp. You know, I wonder if you add soft focus. Some of these cacti look better than others, but as an idea, pretty slick. So, you know, to Val's point, you got a variety of ways that you can use this. I had a friend who was just kind of generating backgrounds, ultimately of things that they wanted to paint, and they wanted to go from sort of photo reference to watercolor. So you could search on the web to find a great photo, search through your own library, or just generate a cool one and, you know, start playing around. I love the sky here. I love the sunset sky, and it's one type of sky in Arizona. You know, and again, we can probably, with some of the additional color and tone settings here, really change the lighting and change kind of the appeal and the aesthetic of this image. Okay, so hey, what's up, Paul Weaver? Nice to see you. Okay, so that's just a little bit on Firefly. If you haven't checked it out already, if you're not playing around with it, and of course GenFill and Photoshop, you know, I highly recommend. Oh, here's Henrik again. Bubble tea. This reminds me of our Boba Bear bubble tea that Katrina was generating last year at Max. Okay, so we were talking about text to image and some cool things. And again, kind of spirit of this morning, Creative Kickoff is talking about just things trending in and around the web. And in this case, wanted to pull this one up here around LTX Studio.
Making it easier.
Oh, wait, I don't want audio. No? Okay. So this one, again, I kind of came across my desk a couple weeks ago. And this is really interesting because this is kind of Val was just mentioning, you know, storyboarding. So lots of things happening here that you could imagine are sort of potentially interesting. It does sound effects and music generation. And apparently, I believe this is actually pulling from some different models. So all of this isn't self-contained. Have you heard of LTX? What are your thoughts on this? You can see storytelling transformed. And I thought this one was particularly interesting because, again, a lot of what I see outside of maybe occasionally generating a plate or, yes, in the future for us in particular, some kind of text to video. I need a sunset, you know, an actual moving sunset video that I wasn't able to capture in the desert because I, you know, just didn't. Or something else, you know, just the concept of kind of using this as a storyboard, but all of it is generative. Really interesting. I could see a pretty cool use for that. You know, contextualized video. I love the idea around that. I just saw something too. Now I'm forgetting. I didn't capture it. Maybe it's Pika too. Did Pika just add sound effects generation? Or maybe that was Runway. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller in the chats? Well, let me go to the other chats over here. Buck ID. Yes, this is Adobe's generative AI via the web. So that's firefly.adobe.com. Zefaria Kostopoulou, nice to see you. Okay, let's go back over here. Gino Marbella, yes, to build random B-roll. I mean, again, that's another one of those for sure where you just need more B-roll, you know, and there's a great use for that. But that brings me to this one here, which I imagine many of you saw a couple weeks back or heard about, which is Google Research's Lumiere, a space-time diffusion model for video generation. Now this one, again, they kind of give you a series of different things. So we just mentioned text to video. And yeah, I mean, I think to Gino's point, there's a great use here for B-roll. It's funny, you often see, at least a lot of the stuff that I've seen as far as how a lot of it's being promoted is main character video generation. That's fine. I don't see that in use for me personally so much, but I could totally see how people might use that. But here's where it starts to get really interesting in the image to video stuff. And unfortunately, they don't give you the still reference. Oh, that is when you hover over this. So there's the still. So like this is the kind of stuff which I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm seeing more and more of it trend and getting people excited. And we sneaked a little bit of this at Max last year. So, you know, a bee holding a jar of honey. And then, let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how it's, oh, did it just shift? It does. It's shifted to different examples. But, you know, these all emerged from stills. So obviously this is some kind of, you know, generative robot still, generative Bigfoot. This kind of looks like Ted, a teddy bear, car driving on the beach. And, you know, again, with all of its kind of current limitations, I mean, you know, you look at the wheels there and the person's head, and it's all small anyway, so, you know, we don't know the ultimate output of this, what this would or even could look like. I have no idea what the sizes are here. But that said, it's really interesting. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm curious in the chat, like what do you see yourselves embracing? What would you want us to develop, you know, in short term? This is another one that came up, this video stylization. I'm wondering if I need to refresh this page. Keeps kind of dying on me here. Let's see. And cinemagraphs and things. Yeah, so this was, I saw this, you know, and again, a couple people are doing this, but this is the kind of stuff which, do you find this interesting? I'm curious. I want to know, do people find this interesting? This sort of stuff, I mean, again, it depends on the kind of video you do, you know? If I were still really focusing on my, you know, children's music show, this stuff, again, for me, it's super cool. I don't know that I'd use it, but it is pretty neat all the same. And, you know, you just kind of look up here, the source video, and you see like made of wooden blocks, origami folded paper, colorful toy bricks, made of the flower one's really creepy. That one's kind of tripping me out. Dog one here, same thing. You know, again, that one didn't translate over as well. This bear one did, though. This is pretty sick. I mean, this is pretty crazy. But again, with, you know, some kind of limitations and weirdness. Obviously, these things are still in development. Classic cinemagraphs. You know, we've been doing this in Photoshop and After Effects forever. Video in painting. You know, this is stuff where, you know, this is kind of the, and then out painting as well. You know, kind of the content aware fill, you know, V2030, just taking that to a next level. And, you know, I polled recently on Reddit to ask people what they thought of this. And in painting for sure is something that's very, very much on people's minds. And then this is the, again, this is sort of things we're already doing with generative fill, where you can replace, you know, someone's outfit, or in this case on video. You know, that stuff's pretty neat. And, you know, I mean, Val, right? A little chick in a bathrobe. Are you kidding me? Ah, cute. I can't tell. What, boots? I can't take it. Okay. So, again, that's Lumiere. All right. Oh, and just on that here, I just wanted to pull this one up too, just because this was interesting. This was, again, another sort of image to video, but this was showing, again, one of our competitors, just how it's evolving. So even still, you look at the arms, there's still some weirdness, a bit of weirdness in the arms as they come down, but you can see how all these texts are just getting better. Is this something you'd see yourself embracing or using? And how might you use it? And would you want us to develop these kind of things? This is the stuff I want to know. And then this is another one here. Now, this is not anything that, again, so we obviously have our recently released enhanced speech in Premiere, formerly known as Podcast, which you can still access on the web, podcast.adobe.com. So that's our own AI voice cleaning model algorithm. Feed it some audio of your voice that maybe wasn't recorded on the best mic or wasn't done in the best environment, and it'll make it better. Isotope here, they make audio plugins. They too have their own audio enhancer, and you can see it takes any voice recording and makes it more powerful, more polished, and more professional. And they do it with basically three sort of components here. Clean it, so obviously just, you know, any sonic anomalies, it's going to get rid of those. Potentially a little bit of noise, potentially fixing EQ. There's presets. you know, the shape, and then a little bit of boost to just make it louder, a little bit bigger, a little bit more present. For me, these are the kind of things that are, you know, really, really useful, because you can imagine on the daily, I just need to make things a little bit better. So, you know, again, just a quick exploration of some of the stuff out there. That's just the stuff that I'm seeing. Yes, and Essential Sound is now called Enhance Speech. That's right. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing, but I want to know what you're seeing. So, you know, let me know in the chats. And until next time, friends, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. So thanks for joining me on this creative kickoff for Monday. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.